expect to see, obviously, some level of weakness.
Despite all of this, Turkey is still one of the fastest growing economies of its caliber in terms of size and scale. Will there be something that could be a positive catalyst as the year moves on, as you look forward?
So it's not all doom and gloom. When you have, cheap energy is keeping a lid on the balance of payment the current account deficit in Turkey. You have the economy growing. The consensus before what happened was about 3.5% for this year, which is a decent rate. I suspect it will be revised down because factoring in the impact of the terrorist attacks on tourism, and this will also have probably an impact on tourism. So, yeah, you could argue that there is the negative yield story in Europe that's driving portfolio investments into the carry trade. So it's not all bad, but on balance, it's more risky than it was before, even with the coup failing.
Fact, as you look to a weaker currency, the Turkish lira under pressure, is there a way that the Turkish economy could benefit from that in terms of boosting its exports, perhaps? Is there an upside to the story?
There always is. There is certainly going to be that impact. But by the same token, you're going to see a negative impact on tourism, for example. There are going to be sectors that will be adversely affected also. Ultimately, I think how much of an impact you're going to see or a boost you're going to see on exports will be determined by where we see the currency stabilize. So it's not an impact you can expect to see overnight.
What about a knock-on effect coming from the unrest in Turkey, from the political shockwaves? This part of the world could benefit in terms of increased tourism, increased capital flows. The money and tourists that were supposed to go to Istanbul or to Ankara could now go to Dubai or Cairo, even Beirut.
Arguably, I'd say you're correct. That's something that certainly has been seen in the past. At the time of the Arab Spring, Dubai saw a massive increase in tourism, as you saw that exact same kind of diversion. I would agree with you that there is a possibility, yes.
Now, what are you seeing in the numbers in terms of the knock-on effects, potential impact?
I could see Dubai benefiting from this. I don't see, because Cairo and Beirut, they have their own problems. Turkey, the big advantage of Turkey, however, is that in terms of the economies of scale, it is massive.
Yeah.
It's, a country of more than 80 million people, and you can't say that about other countries in the region, bar Egypt and Iran, and the opening of Iran is still, going really slow. But Egypt certainly has its own problems. Perhaps in the immediate flows, like, going, bank deposits, maybe Dubai would benefit, but, not others. I don't see others.
Fahd, we are in earnings season, and is there anything you're watching in particular, a particular theme that we should be aware of?
I think there's two themes that I myself and really the investor base as a whole are going to be focusing on. Number one is progression or developments of NPLs and loan growth in the banking sector. That's something that's been of a concern. Wouldn't expect NPLs really to increase at this stage.
So you're expecting stability in
maybe a modest increase. Really, I would expect NPLs to really increase in the second half of the year, but loan growth at this stage is going to be more in focus. The second thing everyone's going to be looking at is where is consumer spending going to be ending up? And if you look at some of the consumer discretionary names versus the consumer staple names that are going to be reporting, how heavily hit will their top line be? Now that we are already well into a much lower oil price environment, and we've seen responses from the government with regards to subsidy reform and so on, that sort of effect, we want to see just how important that would be.
Yeah. And perhaps another word from you in terms of what you're watching this week.
Not necessarily this week, but I'm watching. One of the things we're watching is that how low the lira would be and what kind of reaction from the central bank, because that's also another tension point. The central bank already indicated last month, we broke that story that the rate cuts cannot keep continuing, but if the lira keeps weakening, would they be forced to raise rates? And would that actually lead to more tension with the government, with Erdogan, who we know has a view on rates? So that's something that we should keep an eye on.
Another central bank then in focus and under political pressure as well. Ale, thank you very much for that insight, and Fahd, you're sticking around. Still coming up, we'll get more on the economic effects